and welcome to Boardman Park. I'm Mark Luke, a member of the Boardman Youngstown Kiwanis Club. It's my honor to call to order the 118th Annual Boardman Township Memorial Day Service. Memorial Day was originally called Decoration Day. It's a day of remembrance for those who have died in military service to our nation. 3 years after the United States Civil War ended, on May 5, 1868, General John A. Logan, Commander-in-Chief of the Grand Army of the Republic, issued General Order No. 11, establishing May 30th as Decoration Day, a day for the nation to decorate the graves of the war dead with flowers. It is believed the date was chosen because flowers would be in bloom all over the country. The first large observance was held that year at Arlington National Cemetery, when flowers were placed on the graves of Union and Confederate soldiers. The concept was endorsed by the United States Congress in 1871. General Logan's orders for his posts to decorate graves in 1868 urged, "We should guard their graves with sacred vigilance. Let pleasant paths invite the coming and going of reverent visitors and fond mourners. Let no neglect, no ravages of time testify to the present or to the coming generations that we have forgotten, as a people, the cost of a free and undivided republic." Local springtime tributes to the Civil War dead already had been held in various places. One of the first occurred in Columbus, Mississippi, April 25, 1866, when a group of women visited a cemetery to decorate the graves of Confederate soldiers who had fallen in battle at Shiloh. Nearby were the graves of Union soldiers, neglected because they had been the enemy. Disturbed at the sight of the bare graves, these women placed some of their flowers on those graves as well. The establishment of Decoration Day has a direct connection to the Mahoning Valley. General Logan's only son, John A. Logan Jr., met a Youngstown woman named Edith Andrews of the prominent Youngstown steelmaking family. They married and made their home in Youngstown, living here in the 1890s. Like his father, John Jr. was a soldier of distinction. His military service included the Spanish-American War and the Philippine-American War, during which Major Logan was killed in action on November 11, 1899, in San Jacinto, the Philippines, and was posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor. He is buried in Youngstown's Oak Hill Cemetery, marked by a white marble headstone with gold engravings, signifying those soldiers awarded America's highest recognition for valor. By the end of the 19th century, Decoration Day ceremonies were being held on May 30th throughout the nation. Boardman Township's first was May 30th, 1904, held across the street in Boardman Cemetery. It was not until after World War I, however, the day was expanded to honor those who died in all of America's wars. In 1971, Memorial Day was declared a national holiday by an act of Congress, although it is still often called Decoration Day. In December 2000, the United States Congress passed, the President signed into legislation, the National Moment of Remembrance Act, which encourages all Americans to pause wherever they are at 3 p.m. local time on Memorial Day for a minute of silence to remember and honor those who have died in service to our nation. Today is not a day for travel, vacationing, barbecues, family gatherings, swimming pool openings, picnics, walks in the park, wearing white from now to Labor Day, or even for parades or services like these, unless you choose them to be, because you can choose to spend your day in the manner that you wish. You can choose that because great Americans with qualities like duty, honor, courage, service above self, and engaging in missions despite knowing a possible outcome, they give you the freedoms to make your choices. Throughout our history, a special breed of individual has always stepped forward to protect the sovereignty of our nation and our way of life, many of whom gave the ultimate sacrifice, surrendering their lives on the altar of freedom. To those of you with us today who served or are serving our nation, and to those who are no longer with us, we who now live in this greatest country in the world say thank you. At this time, we ask you to please stand if you are able, as we will have our national anthem, invocation, and pledge of allegiance. we ask you to please join vocalist Miranda Russell as she leads us in the singing of our national anthem.
Stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight. For the ramparts we march were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the lands of the free and the home of the brave? Thank you.
At this time, we welcome Lauren Johnson to lead us in an invocation.
Good morning. If you would bow your heads in prayer with me this morning. Lord, we thank you for what you have done, what you are doing, and what you will do, because, Lord, you are the same yesterday, today, and forever. You are worthy, Lord, to receive glory and honor and power, because you've created all things, and because of your will, they exist and were created. We come before you this morning to honor and remember those who have given the ultimate sacrifice for our protection and for our freedom. As one nation under God, we are truly blessed. May you continue to be with and come alongside those who have lost a loved one today as we remember their sacrifice, and may you supply all their needs according to your riches in Christ Jesus, as it says in Philippians. May we now approach the throne of grace with boldness so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us now at the proper time. And may we humble ourselves and pray for the healing of this land today. Thank you, and may you bless our brave servicemen and women, our veterans, and those that have made the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom. And in your precious and holy name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Lauren. We now welcome Lieutenant Colonel Bill Moss, United States Air Force retired, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
The first thing a member does when they join the military is go through a swearing-in ceremony. This is done in front of a commissioned officer such as myself and in the presence of the flag. And it goes like this. I ask them to raise their right hand and repeat after me. I, and state your name, solemnly pledge to protect the United States, and it goes on and ends with, so help me God. Well, they make a choice at that point to say either swear or affirm, and often they're too unrest to say either swear or affirm and say both. So please join me to remember all those who made that choice and defended our nation and gave their all. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
You may be seated. Well, we're so thankful to be here today and thankful to have our parade back this year. Last parade was in 2019, but we came back well this year, and it was very exciting. Was it exciting? Did you have a good parade? Did you enjoy it? Good. How thankful we are. Of course, thanking our veterans with us here today as well, and the flyover. Everyone happen to see the flyover today too? Beautiful. That is a process, I'll tell you. But it turned out okay. One thing we were nervous about, but it was wonderful. Well, we'd like to recognize and thank some people here today before we welcome our speaker. This is one of these events in life where when you pick up the phone or you send an email or a text message and you ask someone to help, they say yes. And it's wonderful because we're yielding what we had so far today, this parade and this wonderful service. I'd like to thank our Boardman Youngstown Kiwanis Club. Our president, Joe Lyons, is with us here today. Thank you, Joe. Thank you for our club's leadership. Of course, our Boardman Park, so beautiful today. We thank the leadership of our park and the park staff for having it in such good shape for us. And our Boardman Township, every department contributed to the success of our events here today. Of course, behind me, our incomparable Boardman High School Wind Ensemble and our amazing conductor, Mr. Tom Ruggieri. And the Boardman Schools Television Network, so good all the time, all year round, filming us for this service today. Our local media that promotes this, that you could find out we're here today. Our scout troops and Troop 46 for their flag patrol in the parade, as well as our flag ceremony today. And Jam Sounds, John Chupa is a veteran with us here today for our sound system. And I'd also like to thank individually a few people. Lieutenant Rick Baylog was very helpful from the township. Police department for the parade route with us. Darren and Jen Tallman pitched in this morning to help out so significantly. And we needed a few cars. And when you need cars, you call the right people. And that's Rob Fellman and John Kufleitner helped us out with some beautiful convertibles today. If you saw them in the paper, in the parade. So it was just wonderful as well. Now, of course, attending with us here today, we have members from the American Legion, United States Naval Women's Reserves, the Waves Group, and we're happy to have all the veterans that are with us here today. Thank you for joining us so much, for all of you. By way of some introductions from our township and various boards, our trustees, all the trustees are here today. Mr. Brad Calhoun, Tom Costello, Larry Moliterno. Gentlemen, thank you. Also, our fiscal officer, Bill Light. Good morning. Our township administrator, Jason Lurie. Representing our school board, Mr. Jeff Barone, John Frida, Frank Zetz. Did I miss anyone from the school board? No? Okay, gentlemen, thank you. I know our superintendent, Tim Saxton, was at the parade this morning as well. We're thankful for him. And our Boardman Township Park Commissioners with us here today, Ken Goldsboro and Joyce Mistovich, and our Executive Director, Mr. Dan Slagle. Thank you all. I know I also saw out in the audience as well our Mahoney County Area Court Judge here in the Boardman Court, Judge Joseph Hauser. Judge, good morning. So traditionally for this event, our speaker is our parade grand marshal. I got a call from a very nice gentleman, Mr. Gary Boardman, and he said, Dr. Fred Soller is a good friend of mine, and I have a Army Jeep, and I would like to drive him in the parade. He's a World War II veteran. I said, I love that idea. Of course, yes. And then I thought, what if Dr. Soller would be our parade grand marshal? So I called Mr. Gutterby. Mr. Gutterby said, I love that idea too. So we had a parade grand marshal, and we have a parade speaker. So I'd like to introduce to you our parade grand marshal. Dr. Fred Soller is a 1944 graduate of South High School. He was soon drafted in the United States Navy and served until 1946 after the end of World War II. While in the Navy, he was in the Pacific Theater. In early August 1945, he was in the Leyte Gulf, Philippines, training for the invasion of Japan. That operation was scuttled as President Harry Truman made two significant decisions that resulted in the Japanese surrender and the end of the Pacific War. Decisions that likely saved Dr. Soller's life and many uncounted others. After leaving the military, he entered a pre-med program at Miami University in Oxford, Ohio, while there befriending the university's head football coach, a gentleman you might know as Woody Hayes. He then enrolled at The Ohio State University's dental school in 1955 and practiced dentistry for almost 50 years. Before retiring in 2006, He's a great man, a great local man, a great American. We're pleased to have you with us here today. If you would please stand, we may recognize our Parade Grand Marshal, Dr. Fred Soller. Thank you very much, sir. Our speaker this year is Mr. Jim Guterba, a Poland, Ohio native and graduate. He played guard for the 1960 and 61 undefeated Tri-County football team. An injury prevented him from playing college football, and college life wasn't for him at the time. So he enlisted in the United States Marine Corps at 17 years old. He served as a Marine Corps infantryman for 3.5 years in country in the Vietnam War, where he received the Combat Action Ribbon, Navy Presidential Citation, Navy Unit Commander Ribbon, and the RVN Gallantry Cross with Palm Unit Citation. Returning home after service, he earned his bachelor's and master's degrees from Youngstown State and Kent State Universities, respectively. He taught physical education in Poland and Boardman Schools, retiring from Boardman Schools as an administrator. The military experiences and action that Jim Guterba was involved in, especially Operation Starlight, was noticed by Hollywood. In 1977, he received a phone call from Robert De Niro because they were filming the movie Deer Hunter in Struthers and other local places here in our valley. And he met with him. So Jim Guterba met with Robert De Niro for 3.5 or 4 hours one evening, discussed his experiences, and gave him some very interesting information that he could portray that role in that movie. Mr. Guterba and his wife Linda have 2 children, daughter Amy and son Brian. Please let's give a warm welcome to our Memorial Day speaker, Mr. Jim Guterba.
Yes, that's good enough. Thank you for the kind introduction. It is indeed an honor to speak at this solemn Memorial Day gathering in my hometown area in beautiful Boardman Park. I'll tell you, this honor, it's really amazing. I can't get over it yet. Today, many people throughout our country will gather to honor, remember, and convey gratitude for the sacrifices of our fallen heroes. There's not a passing day that I do not think about the events and the men and women with whom I served in Vietnam nearly 60 years ago. In that regard, Memorial Day has a special meaning to me, and I know the family and friends of those servicemen and women who served our country. Every day is Memorial Day for them. It is a day to express heartfelt appreciation for those who gave it all. At the end of World War II, Admiral Nimitz, reflecting on the Battle of Iwo Jima, came out with a comment that says, "Uncommon valor was a common virtue." And Admiral Halsey, at the end of his head of the Pacific campaign, came out and said he was getting all of these accolades for being a great leader in the Pacific campaign. And his remark was, "There are no great men. There are just great challenges that ordinary men are forced by circumstance to meet." Fast forward. As a Marine Corps veteran of the Vietnam War, I was asked to share some thoughts about my Memorial Day and its meaning. In that regard, I've chosen to share thoughts about 2 areas of which I am most familiar: sacrifice and that of being an infantryman in a time of war or conflict. We Vietnam-era Marines and Army grunts called ourselves the Grunts. We were the ones who patrolled the hazy jungles, swamps, and triple canopy forests and rice paddies in search of enemy forces. The North Vietnamese Army, known as the MVA, and the Viet Cong. Upon arrival, we quickly found out that Vietnam was a country of formidable, menacing consequences in many respects. As a grunt, I witnessed many acts of courage, personal sacrifice, and valor that most people only see depicted in movies. No group was closer to the miseries of horrors of war than the infantrymen, except for the civilian victims and prisoners of war who were constantly exposed to death and human suffering. Not unlike any other wartime area in America's history, sacrifice was an ever-present reality for the grunts. For many of the Marines, it was a sacrifice paid over a lifetime, with lasting physical and psychological scars. For others, it was the ultimate sacrifice, the loss of their life. For the grunts in Vietnam, every day was a sacrifice. It's almost like the Navy SEALs motto, one that they have. Remember, the only easy day was yesterday. Not only was one routinely engaged with the well-trained and dedicated NVA and Viet Cong forces, the other challenge facing our fighting men included the stifling heat and humidity and often too much water during the rainy monsoon season. And we would be wet for weeks on end without the ability to change clothes. We all had jungle rot on the skin, the light skin pulling off your feet. And also there were the flora and fauna of that country. There are many kinds of snakes, cobras, Burmese python, very venomous kraits. And down, if you were in the 5 zone down near the Mekong Delta, you would run into crocodiles down there if you were in the Brown Water Navy or with the Navy SEALs. As you moved north, there would even be, if you were up near Laos, near the DMZ, there were tiger up there. And tigers mauled several Marines during the Vietnam War. Let's see. Malaria and other tropical diseases were also problems. The mosquitoes swarmed at night, and we had a lot of evacuations due to malaria issues. And also the liver flukes caused by having to drink the water out of the rice paddies sometimes, and we couldn't get fresh potable water. And that became a major problem for us. Other annoyances included sleep deprivation, which was probably one of the most. We averaged 4 to 5 hours sleep a night, sleeping in a great scraped out hole on the ground. I slept on the ground the whole time I was there. Or you were sleeping in a bunker, a rat-infested bunker, where the rats would come in, and I know up near the DMZ, if you were eating something and you didn't clean your lips off properly, you might feel something else touching your lips. You were lucky if you averaged 4 hours sleep a night. And then you would go in the morning, you'd get up, and you would have some sea rations, which was compressed food of various things like ham and lima beans that was universally despised. And everybody tried to trade off for the peaches for that. And other things. We didn't have hot meals. My Christmas dinner in 1965 was a can of peaches and some powdered coffee heated up with a C4 plastic explosive because we couldn't get heat tabs. At other times, there would be no sleep at all, especially when we were on night alert patrols. Dental problems were also common for us in Vietnam. We couldn't always get the toothbrushes and toothpaste and things we need. I never heard of floss at that time. And so we shared toothbrushes from time to time, but also we shared them with our weapons to help clean make sure that they work properly. Bathing was also a rare occurrence, and sometimes we had to bathe in a leach-filled stream. And what we have is the Marine Guards would take turns being on guard while the other ones went in there and tried to get as clean as possible. The climate wreaked havoc upon our uniforms. We in the Marines called them our utilities. And because they would rot off, we'd call for new ones, but we got them from what we call the pile. And back by the Chu Lai airstrip, which is where I was located, they had some laundry services back there near where all the aircraft were kept, and they would send out clothing in a pile, is what we called it, and it could be also flak jackets and whatever, helmets and everything. And they would bring those out there, try to spread them by size, but usually they just threw them out. And the sad thing about it, we'd go out and pick something out that we thought was a good thing, but you'd look at it and sadly you see the name of a wounded or a deceased Marine on that jacket or the pants or something of that nature. We often had to find clothing for boots and helmets as well. Mail call was a big issue in Vietnam. It was probably the most exciting time we had, except for maybe the Bob Hope Christmas show, if we had a chance to go to that. And the mail call would usually come in if we were in the field. They'd throw an orange bag out of a helicopter and we would sort through it. The problem was a number of Marines never heard their name called, and that was a sad time. So we shared mail. And to this day, I can still remember some of the street addresses, girlfriends' names, parents' names, and things of that nature, especially when I go to the Black Granite Wall in Washington, D.C. During the time I spent with the Marine grunts in Vietnam, I lost nearly 50 pounds of body weight. However, what I lost in weight was replaced by my admiration for the men and women with whom I served. While women did not serve on the front lines in those days for the most part, their sacrifices and sufferings were no less important in the areas they faithfully served. The field hospital and casualty collection stations and hospital ships. Nurses worked endless hours making life and death decisions in triage, which meant each nurse had to assess, treat, and decide who would be next for surgery, knowing full well their choices meant some choices meant that the casualties had minimal chance of survival. Nurses were also faced with the task of performing necessary life-saving surgical procedure operations when surgeons were not available. In total, 8 military nurses lost their lives in Vietnam due to enemy action. 55 plus volunteer nurses from around the world also lost their life to enemy action. Navy corpsmen served as medics for both the Marines and the Navy personnel in Vietnam. They served heroically and took enormous risks and displayed undaunted courage that we as Marines hope to emulate when confronted by similar battle challenges. A writing called Doc, as penned by Marine Jim Curtis, accurately describes the feelings we Marines had for our corpsmen. His writing reads this: I can't recall his given name. We always called him Doc. But I do remember all the times the two of us would talk. He really didn't believe in war and said that he was scared. But when we hollered, "Corpsman up!" we never saw that fear. I never saw that fear. He'd risk it all to save a life, and sometimes he would cry, but only when we lost a man or heard a friend had died. So here to him, that long-lost friend who pushed aside his fears. And if we ever meet again, I'll refer to him as Sir. I would be remiss not to mention another Navy corpsman from the Youngstown, Ohio area, Hospitalman Richard Doc Powell, who was awarded the Navy Cross citation second only to the Medal of Honor. He joined my outfit 2 years after I was there, and he was awarded the Navy Cross posthumously for his extraordinary heroism while he was in L Company, 3rd Battalion, 7th Marines. He is credited with saving the lives of countless Marines during his stay. During Operation Sussex Bay, August 29th of 1968, Corpsman Powell was severely wounded by enemy machine gun fire and chose to ignore his painful injuries. He continued to render life-sustaining aid for the fallen Marines. Unfortunately, he was struck again by intense hostile sniper fire and mortally wounded while attending to another Marine. Because of his outstanding initiative, personal valor, and sincere concern for his comrades, Hospitalman Powell served to inspire all who observed him as he succeeded in saving the lives of numerous Marines, and he upheld the highest traditions of the United States Naval Service. The justification given to engage in war and conflict should be and always be debated. However, the nobility of the sacrifices made by our fallen heroes should never be subject to question, and those who supported them. I would like to close my remarks with a prophetic writing by Army Major Michael Davis O'Donnell, a helicopter pilot who wrote these thoughts on the hills of Dak To in the Central Highlands of Vietnam. He wrote, "If you are able, save for them a place inside of you and save one backwards glance when you are leaving for the places they can no longer go. Be not ashamed to say you love them, although you may or may not have always, and take what they have taught you with their dying and keep it with your own. And in that time when men decide and feel safe to call the war insane, take one moment to embrace those gentle souls you left behind." Major O'Donnell went missing in action March 24th, 1970. His remains and Nova's crew were recovered in Cambodia in 1995. He was laid to rest on August 16th, 2001 at Arlington National Cemetery. Thank you for your attending the Day of Remembrance, and always remember those who sacrifice so that we can live in a free America. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Guterba. That was an amazing message and a very personal one, talking about his experiences in his service. I wrote down 2 words: uncommon valor. And those are going to stick with me. I hope they stick with you as well. Common people in uncommon circumstances, challenging circumstances, uncommon valor. That will be my takeaway amongst many other things. So now we turn today to America the Beautiful by our Boardman High School Wind Ensemble. Now we will also turn to our high school wind ensemble for our Armed Forces Salute. The Armed Forces Salute, during this, they will play all of these service songs. So we ask all veterans, when you hear your service song played, to please gather at the Veterans Memorial. We ask you to gather on either side of it, facing the audience, so we may see all the way up to the memorial for the laying of the wreaths. But again, as your service song is played, we ask you to please gather on each side of the memorial. Thank you. ask you to please remain standing for the placing of the memorial wreath by Lieutenant Colonel Bill Moss. And a wreath honoring current military personnel presented by the Boardman High School National Honor Society President, Jenna Quinlan. Again, please remain standing for our rifle salute, the playing of taps, and the flag ceremony. At this time, we will again turn to our Boardman High School Wind Ensemble for the John Philip Sousa Stars and Stripes Forever. As is our tradition, we allow the Boy Scouts to come around and greet the veterans. And for those of you who'd like to greet them as well, we ask you to do so. So veterans, please stand there and be greeted. We'd like to thank you for attending. God bless you, and God bless America.